There is Taylor Barnard on the bottom right-hand side of your picture. Wide and into the wall for Oliver Rowland. That's it. Pole position's over.
Nissan have improved things enormously throughout last year, and now they're in a very good position obviously this year. Here we go then, the start of the final flying lap for the battle for pole position in the season opener in São Paulo. It is Oliver Rowland who is first down towards turn one, and well, what did you think of that, Andre?
Well, it looked like he was going to miss the corner, but he did a beautiful drift into the apex. It looked like almost like go-kart days.
Pascal Wehrlein, though, is marking up a little quicker already.
Yeah, but I think Ollie nailed that turn one. It looks like Pascal's nailed his as well, so this is super close from the two of them.
Nissan versus Porsche, looking for 3 points for pole position, the early points in this new season. Who's going to get it? Pascal Wehrlein, only .016. Now it's gone the other way slightly. Oliver Rowland is looking quicker. He's just over halfway around the lap, coming through turns 7 and 8. Two 90-degree right-handers, back onto full throttle, four-wheel drive, right out to the wall and try to make it work.
The machine, the guy's not leaving anything on the table. Like, he's really getting so close to the walls, arriving, drifting into the corners, really squeezing out everything, and it looks like he's probably going to take pole position. Let's wait for Pascal.
Cross the line, let's see, he's done a 109.95, but Wehrlein's very close as well, over the line. He's coming towards it, he will see very close because he's gone faster already into that final sector. 0.084, now it's down to 0.041. We don't know who's going to take pole position. Checkered flag is out, and it's Wehrlein who's done it. Wehrlein takes pole position, a 109.851, snatching it from Oliver Rowland through that final section. Great stuff.
I wonder if Pascal kept his tyres in a better window just towards the end of the lap, because Ollie was so on the ragged edge from the braking into turn one.
So Pascal Wehrlein aiming for back-to-back pole positions. We've seen it twice in Formula E, Sebastian Buemi in 2016, Alexander Sims also in 2019. Across the timing line, though, comes the reigning world champion. What's it like down towards the first corner, using all of the road, a little bit deep on the apex, but otherwise okay. Gets a good run out of turn one.
He was very close to the dirt on the left-hand side on the way into the corner, but got away with it, and now Da Costa launches himself onto the south finish straight. So once again, we've got the side-by-side here. So down at turn one, Da Costa carrying a bit more understeer through there, but both drivers very committed.
Yeah, all looks good so far. In towards turn three, how's it look for them? A little bit tighter on the apex there for Wehrlein on the left-hand side of your screen. Through in towards this complex of corners here is where it can be made or broken for the lap time there, and it looks okay so far for Da Costa. He's got the advantage by just under a tenth of a second here, Billy, on his teammate.
Yeah, interestingly there, through 5 and 6, Da Costa still choosing to take that wide line. He looks a little bit deep into the chicane there for Da Costa, so that might have cost him a little bit of lap time, tightening up that middle part of the chicane.
Yeah, he missed the first apex, didn't he? And just that's heavily compromised his run through there. Nearly 3/10 down now.
So coming through into the stadium section we go, and Wehrlein increasing that advantage over Antonio Felix Da Costa, and Da Costa is having a bit of a shocker in the middle and the final sector. Wehrlein has it all to do, has got all the pressure on his shoulders as he aims for 4 pole positions at a single venue and tries to make history in Formula E. Through the Peraltada we go, Wehrlein versus Da Costa. It's looking very good so far for Pascal Wehrlein. A snap of oversteer as we come to the line. Who gets pole? It's Pascal Wehrlein by a tenth of a second over Antonio Felix Da Costa. The reigning world champion takes back-to-back pole positions in 2025 for the start of season 11. What a performance from him. What a great job also for Tag Heuer Porsche. Well, there's never been an all-German front row in Formula E history. Germans have been on pole on 14 previous occasions. Wehrlein and Günther have been responsible for the last 9 of those. As we look at Günther winding his way up for this one and only flying lap. Through the chicane we go. We then cross to on board with Pascal Wehrlein, just getting the heat into the tyres and the brakes, putting as much lock on as he can to get everything into the right operating window. Down to the first corner. We have seen drivers making mistakes through here. Looks okay though for Wehrlein. For Günther rather. Car looking nice and compliant through turns 1 and 2.
Picked up that inside curve nicely. Takes a sort of more traditional line through 3 into 4.
See about Wehrlein there on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Again, looking okay there so far. Using as much runoff as Günther was on the outside at turn 1 and 2 as well. And again, a nice late apex.
It's deep. Günther's gone deep into that chicane. That would have compromised his run for the right-hand part there, Tom.
Yeah, quite possibly so. Let's see whether Wehrlein is able to build up the advantage as a result of that. Günther was actually fastest overall in the first sector, just under 0.08 of a second separating those two, but the score on the door really, and the proof of the pudding, will be in that second sector once we get an idea of that mistake from Günther and how much it has cost him.
I think the answer is coming up pretty soon. It's cost them just over a tenth.
Yeah, so not too bad. So still very much in play is Maximilian Günther then here. So Günther versus Wehrlein in pole position. Will it be 3 from 3 in season 11 for Pascal Wehrlein, or will Günther be able to pull it out of the bag and get on pole for the first time since 2023? Over the line comes Günther, a 1:14.9. That's a fantastic lap time, despite the mistake. And Wehrlein has dropped a bit of time in the second sector then. Just one more to go as he outs of the final corner and comes to the timing line. Günther versus Wehrlein, DS Penske versus Porsche. Who gets pole? It's Maximilian Günther by nearly 0.3 of a second. The DS Penske on pole, and it all came down to the final sector because Wehrlein dropped an absolutely huge amount of time. Out of the final corner we come then with Oliver Rowland down towards the first corner, and let's see what it looks like here for the Nissan driver.
I know one thing, it looks really quick on entry, doesn't it? The way they launch into that braking zone, working the wheel a bit harder than maybe we've seen in the other parts qualifying. Still that very narrow line into 4.
Yep, on board here then with Taylor Barnard. Let's see what speed he's going to carry in towards that first corner. On the brakes we go, down in towards turn 1. Oh, a bit of an oversteer on the initial part of that first corner.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of his thing now. He just carries and gains the time to the left, gets a stop for the right. So super close so far. Just a 100th between them, Rowland. So aggressive on the curve there.
Yeah, a bit out of shape coming through the second part of that bus stop chicane. That could cost him a bit of time, and we know Barnard has been meteorically fast throughout the entirety of qualifying here this afternoon. Let's see what it looks like for Taylor Barnard as he comes through. You can see him on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen at the moment, and it was a lot tidier and neater. And Rowland again out of shape in the first chicane in the final sector.
Really took a big undercut off the curb there, and he's down a couple of tenths in that middle sector.
Yeah, Barnard gained 2 tenths just in through the bus stop, didn't he? And we'll see now Rowland up to the line.
Yep, takes a checkered flag, 15.243, so it's not a particularly brilliant lap time there for Oliver Rowland, courtesy of that mistake. Could it be a record first pole position and the youngest ever pole sitter in Formula E? Through the final corner we go for Taylor Barnard and the Neon McLaren. He's been on imperious form, and Taylor Barnard comes to the timing line and he triumphs here in Jeddah. Barnard on pole by over 0.4 of a second. Neon McLaren on top in qualifying for round 4 here in Jeddah. What a superb qualifying for team and driver, and it's Barnard who will start the E-Prix this evening from the very head of the field. It goes on to a bit of concrete on the outside. On to the start of the one and only flying lap, the crucial flying lap for pole position. Pole position for Jake Dennis, or pole position for Norman Nato. Big bit of dirt being kicked up through turn 1 here for Dennis so far.
So he left a little bit more margin than he did in his semi-final lap. Still got a little bit unsettled by using that grass, but I think it's a little bit more put together, that first sector here from Jake Dennis.
So coming through into turns 6 then, on the brakes we go for Jake Dennis, looking pretty good in that first sector. 27.9 for him, so that's pretty good from what we've seen so far. Not the quickest, but certainly not the slowest. What about Nato? Is he going to be able to match that or even beat it? He's catching him in the sort of mini sector. We come up to break the beam here for Norman Nato, and he's got an advantage. 6/100ths of a second, the Nissan, over the Andretti, and deep into turn 8 there for Dennis as well.
Also looking at Norman Nato go through turn 6 there, looked like he had quite a bit of understeer through the middle of that corner, so I'll be interested to see how that affects his exit and the run down to turn 8. Jake Dennis neat and tidy through the chicane there.
Yep, all looking good so far on the brakes into turn 8 for Nato. It was looking pretty good. Dennis, again, leaving a little bit more of a margin on the table compared to the ragged lap we saw from him in the semi-finals, but now just a handful of laps to go. Nato right up against the wall, but he's pulled out more of an advantage in the second sector, up to 0.2 of a second. What's the score on the door going to be for Dennis as he comes to the line? It's a 23.1, not the quickest lap time we've seen, and now it is all eyes on Norman Nato with just 3 corners remaining. Onto the chicane, onto the banking we go. Nato pushing for pole position in Formula E as he comes to the line, and he does take pole here in Miami. Norman Nato on the top step of the grid. Fantastic, 3 points for Nissan. and pole position for the Frenchman. Superb job as Nato gets pole here in America. So across the line then comes Oliver Rowland to start his one and only flying lap. There is Taylor Barnard on the bottom right-hand side of your picture. Wide and into the wall for Oliver Rowland. That's it. Pole position's over. Surely for the Briton. He hits the wall on the exit of Sandervoort and it's all done and dusted. And now it is a formality for Taylor Barnard to be taking pole position here on the streets of Monte Carlo. We mentioned about mistakes creeping in at the most critical moments, and that is exactly what has happened for the championship leader.
Yeah, now he doesn't need to take any risks.
Yeah, I was going to say, they ought to be telling him to just close the lap out, because it doesn't matter what he does, he can do 1 minute 30.
I could be on pole at this point.
Well, you have been several times.
Goodness me, what a shame there for Oliver Rowland. I suppose at best he'll be starting second on the grid here, but he's lost those 3 points, which doesn't sound like a lot at the moment. We're not even at the halfway point of the championship, but come the latter stages of season 11, that could be absolutely critical for the Nissan driver. And now Rowland is going to be thinking about what he'll be able to do to turn his fortunes around coming into the race, as Barnard will be able to cruise on through into pole.
Yeah, it does feel that he's backed out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
The team have obviously been on the radio, but that's the first visible mistake we've seen. We've seen people, you know, cut the chicane, go down the escape road at turn 1, and we've heard of people slightly kissing the barrier, but that was a very firm impact on the exit of Sandervoort.
Well, it won't be the fastest lap that we've seen this weekend in Monte Carlo, but it is pole position for the first time ever for the youngster. Taylor Barnard is on pole here on the streets of Monte Carlo. P1 in the Principality for the young driver from Norwich. And sadly for Oliver Rowland, it is P2 after a trip into the wall on the exit of Sandervoort.
He's obviously just committed with too much speed. Yeah.
It's a big whack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just too quick in.
Yeah, front and rear axle, but it looks like he's definitely bent the rear track rod, and heading sideways like that puts a shock through the gearbox.
It is all on the line here for the Briton as he comes across the timing line to begin his one and only flying lap here in Tokyo.
Yeah, beautifully launched out the final corner there. Sacrificed 17 to make sure he had a good exit of 18. Looks very precise through turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 3 also. It's looking very nice. Will he hit his apexes? Yes. Good rotation in turn 4 and super close again for that second apex. He comes through 5 and goes into turn 6.
Completely in the zone, isn't he, Dan Tixon? What about Oliver Rowland? What can he respond with through the first couple of corners? His car looking a little bit more on the ragged edge here for the first couple.
He's fighting the car there through turn 2 and 3 and a little bit wider on the entry into turn 4 as well.
So Ticktum through the first sector, 29.5. That is an absolute stonker in the first part of the lap. What can Oliver Rowland do in response as Ticktum threads the eye of a needle through turns 10 and 11?
That looks amazing from Dan Ticktum. The amount of speed he carried through that chicane. Oh, we haven't seen anyone going that fast. And a huge moment there for Oliver Rowland in turn 9, almost in the wall on the exit.
So close to it. If he wasn't in the wall, he must have just grazed it. Harries it through the chicane, does Rowland. He was a tenth and a half down.
No.
Ticktum stopped though.
No.
He's slowing down. What's gone wrong for Dan
Touched the
Ticktum?
wall, I guess.
Has he hit the wall? Has he got a technical problem? But Ticktum's run for pole position has come to an end.
He did the best Sector 1, the best Sector 2 we've seen of anybody all weekend.
Oh, what a shame for Dan Ticktum. It will be a career best front row start, but Oliver Rowland is going to be gifted pole position here in Tokyo. It's 2 for 2 from Nissan then, and it's pole position in round 9 on Sunday for Oliver Rowland here in Tokyo. Ticktum in the wall on his flying lap.
I think he overshot turn 15 maybe, and then he aborted.
I would love to see what happened because, I mean, Sector 1 and Sector 2, fastest we've seen of anyone all weekend. He was clearly on the ragged edge, but it was beautiful to watch up until that point. Oh, big impact there on the exit of turn 15. He's just taken a little bit too much speed into the corner.
Well, a serene silence falls over Shanghai, broken by the clattering of the Formula E car over the curbs in the final corner as we see Taylor Barnard beginning his one and only flying lap in his fight for pole position. Down into turn 1 for the young Briton. Looks nice and neat and tidy through there so far. And again, not too much of a fight through turns 2 and into turn 3.
That was lovely. Really nicely got hooked up into both the apex of 2 and 3 there. So he's on and away, but Gunther's just starting up his lap as well.
Ooh, Gunther was strong.
Yeah, initial advantage for Gunther in the first sort of mini sector. We'll get an eye on what it looks like when he comes out of turn 4. That's where the first beam will be broken between Barnard and Gunther. And Gunther with nearly 2/10 in his pocket.
Yeah, maybe he underdrove it, Barnard, in the first sector.
He's gone wide.
He's trying to recover now.
Yeah, he's had a slide under it at 7. That's put him out wide. Gunther's coming up to that same part of the track. The tyres, of course, have done more running now, so the tyres aren't as fresh as they were earlier. The drivers have to compensate. He's gone deep there as well as Lee. This is looking like a messy lap here for Taylor Barnard.
Yeah, a little bit scrappy as he kicks up a bit of dust. It comes across the timing line of 1:08.621. So not the quickest time that we've seen from Taylor Barnard. Now, just 3 more corners to go for Maximilian Gunther. He took pole position in Jeddah through the final 2 corners, over the curbs, nice and neat and tidy, nearly 2/10 in his pocket. He comes to the timing line, and Maximilian Gunther does out-qualify Taylor Barnard to take pole position for DS Penske here in China, to the delight of Phil Charles and the team down on the ground here in Shanghai. What a lap time there, a 1:08.234. That is an absolutely phenomenal time from the young German. Down the long start-finish straight into the fast and fearsome first corner for the Season 9 World Champion. Looked okay for him through there. You can see him harrying the car through the tight and twisty turns 2 and turn 3. Got the car rotated pretty well. What about Taylor Barnard?
Nice and neat through there by Jake Dennis, very tight and a little bit quicker, but fractionally quicker for Taylor Barnard so far.
Yeah, first sector for Jake Dennis, an absolute stonker, 19.5 for the Andretti driver. What can Barnard do in response to that? It's quicker still, 2/100ths of a second faster for Taylor Barnard in the Neon McLaren.
Yeah, a little bit of margin out to the wall there for Jake Dennis as he came through turn 12 into the hairpin at 13.
This is going to be mightily close as Dennis comes through into the final sector. Barnard with a snap of oversteer there through turn 12. Might cost him 0.5 of a second or so. What can Dennis do, though?
Barnard's made a mistake at the hairpin.
Yeah, Barnard makes a mistake down at turn 13, so that's going to gift Jake Dennis pole position, surely, as we come out of the final corner. Dennis comes across the timing line, a 1:06.713 for Jake Dennis, and Barnard with a mistake on his final flying lap here in this session. Out of the final corner we go for Taylor Barnard, and it is not going to be enough to depose Jake Dennis and deny the Season 9 World Champion his first pole position since Berlin last year back in May. Jake Dennis and Andretti are back on top here in Formula E. They will start from the front of the grid for round 12 this afternoon. Well, let's see what Dan Ticktum can do then in the Cupra Kiro down towards the first corner, pattering under braking on the abrasive surface. Does he get the apex of turn 2? No, he's a bit deep into there. That's already compromised his lap before it's really begun. Let's see what Wehrlein can do in response to this one. We've got it slowed down for you. We've got a side-by-side comparison. Down into the first corner we go, into turn 2 there. Wehrlein, much neater.
Much neater, much tidier. That's not the strongest of first sectors there for Dan Ticktum. He crosses the beam with a 16.6. Wehrlein is looking like it's just over a 10th up. It's not Pascal's best through that first part of the lap, but it's certainly advantage Wehrlein.
It's neat and tidy there. He's got different lines, actually. Ticked him a lot tighter into the 2 apexes there as they run through 6 and 7, a little bit wider and a better acceleration out for Wehrlein.
Wehrlein increasing that advantage still in the second sector, up to nearly 0.2 of a second. Porsche have never taken pole position at their home race here in Berlin. Coming down into the final couple of corners, it's now or never time for Wehrlein. He's got it all in his pocket. He's got it all to lose. He needs those 3 points for pole position as we come out of the final turn to take the checkered flag and blast to the timing line. Ticktum with a 57.8, and it's Wehrlein who comes across the line, who takes pole position here for round 14 in Berlin. An absolutely dominant qualifying session from the reigning world champion. Wehrlein, who gets 3 points, keeps his championship hopes alive here this afternoon. Across the line we go for Nick de Vries then. Let's see what it looks like for the Dutchman as we begin his one and only flying lap in this session. Down in towards turn 1. Not leaving much on the table, is he?
Yeah, didn't look as when Evans' last lap, he the previous run. He carried a lot more, looking like he was dragging the rear into that turn.
So we slow the 2 laps down then here. We've got a side-by-side comparison between De Vries and Evans, and this will be a great opportunity here, Karun, to sort of pick out the differences in line and style between them.
Yeah, you can see there Evans' big snap of oversteer as he drops down the slope to the chicane, and that might have cost him a bit of time, but actually he's managed to keep the momentum up. So only 4 thousandths between them. Now the track opens up, it widens briefly down this back straight as you then jump on the brakes for this custom house chicane through the bus stop there. Evans counting good momentum, and this is where I think he's historically so far had a bit of an advantage. This braking zone for the right-hander off 16, but actually on this occasion Nick De Vries doing a fantastic job there. Left, then right. Now you climb sharply uphill, but Evans has carried good momentum, Tom, through that left-right chicane.
Yeah, I think De Vries was a bit deep down into turn 16, and that's ultimately what's cost the Dutchman time. We come to the timing line then here between Evans and De Vries. We take the checkered flag, and it's pole position for Mitch Evans in London for round 15, to the delight of the Jaguar TCS racing team. 3 points on the board, and they now will move to within 3 points of third in the team's championship of DS Penske as well. That was a phenomenal lap time, and especially the final sector for Mitch Evans, because that's where he gained all of the advantage on that flyer. Looks like he got it hooked up okay through turns 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah, a little bit of oversteer and turn in there. Might have compromised him marginally, because that's a sort of corner, that double right, where you just need to keep it rolling.
So he slowed the laps down here. So Cassidy on the left-hand side of your screen, Tictum on the right. We already know a slight mistake for Cassidy in the middle part of the first sector. Come through turn 3. What does it look like here for Dan Tictum? Because this is where we saw the kick of oversteer for Cassidy. Just struggles to get the car rotated in there. That sent him offline a little bit going down into turn 5. Tictum, meanwhile, looks all okay so far.
Yeah, he's up, but only 600, so not by much at all. As they open up the wheel now, the wider part of the track, coming out of 9, down to the bus stop chicane. And I think Cassidy was a little bit deep. We'll see if that's affected the lap time, but I don't think he got that first apex as well. But the effect maybe was that he carried more speed, and you can see that's reflected in the lap time.
Yeah, down into the second sector for Dan Tictum, and he's built up that advantage of 1/10 of a second. So it's looking pretty good into the final few corners here.
Yeah, that neck time I don't think is good enough, as Dan is able to replicate what he'd done previously.
Yeah, Cassidy's absolutely on the back foot here, with Tictum flying his way through the final corner. Who is going to get pole position awarded here in London? We come to the line, and Dan Tictum has done it for the first time in his Formula E career. Dan Tictum will take 3 points and the Julius Baer Pole Position award, but unfortunately he's got a 5-place grid penalty and will start at best P6 on the road. So Cassidy will be at the head of the grid for round 16 this afternoon. But nonetheless, Dan Tictum can enjoy that one. The Julius Baer Pole Position trophy for the first ever time will go to Dan Tictum, and for the first time since 2017 will go to this team now known as Cupra Kiro.